So Wonder Woman is a movie that took everybody by surprise, and as a DC fan, I am very happy to say there is a huge amount of excitement out there for the sequel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some of the information that we already know about the movie, mix it with what a lot of people around the internet are saying they really want to see, and take some ideas of my own and throw it all together and hopefully something not too atrocious comes out.
Here the true nature of man is laid bare. What other depraved thoughts must you be thinking?
God, your daughter's got a nice rack.
Shall I kill him now, my queen?
First off, some things that we do actually know about the movie for sure is it's going to be set before the events of Batman v Superman, which means that no matter what Wonder Woman does in the Justice League movie, it's not going to affect the Wonder Woman standalone sequel in any way. Patty Jenkins has even suggested that it might take place in the 1930s, so pre-World War II time. I actually think this is really good, because an advantage that Wonder Woman has over other DC characters is because she's been alive for so long, you can do a movie with her set in many different time periods. So I'm glad that they're doing that again, rather than just having her set in modern times. Because you gotta use the advantages that your characters have. Which is also a reason why Superman needs to get out into space and fight some weird space aliens. That's one of the cool things about him too, but they've never done it in the movies just yet. Hopefully they will. But I digress. So here's what I imagine. The movie starts on Paradise Island. Wonder Woman is not there, because as established at the end of the last movie, she's living in Paris now. But on Paradise Island, all of a sudden the space just rips open, and out steps Faora. Yes, I'm sorry, for those of you who've followed my channel for a long time, you know this is something I constantly bring up and that I just don't shut up about. But I really want to see Wonder Woman and Faora fight each other. They're just perfect to be villains. Like, Faora was one of the best parts of Man of Steel. Even people that hated that movie said she was a really great character, and ideologically she's the perfect foil for Wonder Woman. Remember that speech that Faora gave to Superman when she's beating him up?
The fact that you possess a sense of morality, and we do not, gives us an evolutionary advantage. And if history has proven anything, it is that evolution always wins.
How well would that work if she was saying that to Wonder Woman? Because Wonder Woman's all about compassion. She's all about the strong people protecting the weak. Faora is the exact opposite of that. The weak being dominated by the strong. Ideologically, they're total inverse opposites of each other, so they'd make great opponents.
Never let your guard down. You expect a battle to be fair. A battle will never be fair.
But you're probably thinking, well, hang on, if this is set in the 1930s, she wouldn't have been locked up in the Phantom Zone. In fact, Krypton would probably not have blown up yet. Yes, you're right. But if the Phantom Zone is some weird extra dimension in space that has allegedly been around for God only knows how long, you could make it a little bit like the Star Trek Nexus. When you get out of it, it can just drop you at any random time or any random place. You don't know. You have minimal control over that. Maybe 1930s on Paradise Island was the closest she could get to being dropped off where she left off. It's not really a big deal. You can just skip over it with one line. And it's a good excuse to bring her back. So the Phantom Zone rips open and all these thousands and thousands of Phantom Zone criminals pour out onto Paradise Island. All the Amazons show up and it's a big like Lord of the Ring battle at the start, just to really kick the movie off with a bang.
Our forces rallied and drove the orcs back.
The Amazons eventually win and drive everyone back into the Phantom Zone, but you can have Faora and maybe a couple of other underling criminals escape off the island and go into the world of men, so now it's Wonder Woman's job to track them down and find them. And since it's 1930s, it's pre-World War II, remember Feora had like a German accent? So maybe they could go to Germany at some point, and if you wanted to have a bit of a joke, you could maybe have like a young Hitler like walking down the street and he almost gets hit by a car and Wonder Woman's like, hey, look out! And goes and saves his life. Yeah, just sort of like a bit of a joke that she accidentally saves Hitler. That'd be pretty funny. Now, you might not like the idea of Feora being the primary villain because you want to see Cheetah. A lot of people really looking forward to that character. And I agree, I think Cheetah is a good character, but I don't think they should make her the villain in the second Wonder Woman standalone. I think they should save her for the third. Because their story, in order for it to be effective, for you to really feel that gut punch impact of the story, you need to have a full movie to set it up. Because Cheetah starts out as Barbara Ann Minerva. She's like an art dealer. She brings art to Diana and Diana sort of cleans it and they become like best friends. And then later on she like cuts her hand on a dagger that has like the cheetah gods in it and it turns her into Cheetah. But then she blames Wonder Woman for it happening to her, which sets up for them like being rivals but used to be former friends and this sort of thing. So I definitely think we should introduce Barbara Ann Minerva in this movie and really establish them as friends. Really establish the relationship there. So perhaps Wonder Woman and her friend Barbara, they're sort of like tracking down Feora and her goons, and eventually they find a way to drive them back into the Phantom Zone. But Wonder Woman realizes that because Feora sort of did like a time shift when she got out, Wonder Woman could use this Phantom Zone to like go back and save Chris Pine so that he doesn't die in the past, because that's another thing a lot of people said they wanted, is we really want to bring Chris Pine back. But perhaps Barbara Ann is like, I don't know if this is a good idea, you know, in Greek mythology there's always like balance in the universe, that if you go back and save someone's life, it usually comes at the cost of ruining someone else's life. Perhaps it's better not to mess around with these things. But Wonder Woman's like, no, come on, saving someone's life is always good. How could saving someone's life ever end up in unforeseen negative consequences that nobody imagined? That's just not possible, right? So she has her final battle with Feora, drives her and her goons back into the Phantom Zone, pops out just in time to save Chris Pine. Maybe she flies up with her invisible jet and like pulls him out of his plane just before it explodes. And then when she gets back to present day with him, we can see that the price the gods have decreed for her doing that is her best friend Barbara has now been cursed as Cheetah. So the price of saving Chris Pine's life was cursing Cheetah. So now Wonder Woman is directly responsible for Cheetah's curse, which would make their rivalry in the third movie so much more powerful because they were friends. Her friend tried to warn her not to do this, but she didn't listen, and now it's her fault. But also with this cosmic balancing out rhetoric, we could also work in a line of that because she saved Chris Pine's life, now his life and her life are kind of connected, which means he will live for as long as she does, which is basically just an excuse so that if we want to have Chris Pine like in Justice League movie or to show up in like modern times, we can, and he doesn't have to be an old man. Just sort of like an excuse for that. And perhaps as a result of her doing this thing, being kind of selfish and saving Chris Pine, she's now been like exiled from Paradise Island for the next like 100 years or something, which would explain why in Batman v Superman she's sort of living under the radar even though she was like a war hero in World War I. So like, why did it change? Why did she suddenly decide to just fly under the radar and not do anything overt? It would explain why she didn't intervene with the events of Man of Steel, because she might have thought, well, you know, I've messed around with things before and it's resulted in terrible things. And it would also kind of explain why she wants the photo of Chris Pine, because if he's also not aging as well, she'd need to get the photo to cover up for him as well as herself. I know it does take some of the emotional layering out of her having that photo if he's still actually alive at the time, but hey, what the hell, you can't have everything. But you know, one of the things that did occur to me is, since this character of Wonder Woman is kind of like the new Superman in this universe, and what I mean by that is the classic Superman, he's usually the really bright, optimistic guy with a smile always on his face, but of course in the DC universe, as we know, this Superman's a lot more brooding. So now Wonder Woman is kind of like the Superman positive personality, which is why I think bringing back Chris Pine is not going to be negatively affected. Like in her movies you can do that, you can have the happy ending. You can't have happy ending in like a Batman movie or something, but you can in her movie. And just as long as they don't fall into the habit of doing this in every single movie like Marvel does, I don't think it should really be a problem, and it's clearly what the fans want. The fans want to see her and Chris Pine together.
The millions of people you talked about, they will die.
We are going anyway.
You mean you were lying?
I'm a spy, that's what I do.
How do I know you're not lying to me right now?
I am taking you to the front. We are probably gonna die. This is terrible idea.
So let me know what you guys think. What ideas did you have about how Wonder Woman should go in the sequel? I am Bandit, this is Bandit Incorporated. Until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.